We are in the third and I believe final shir that has to do with the coming of the Messiah. And the first one we spoke about with the idea of tzipita liyeshua is how to understand the expecting of Mashiach. The second one we spoke about what we're expecting. What to expect when you're expecting is, of course, the idea of the Malchut Beit David and Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. That was the second shir. And I figured as a finale, so to speak, if we do one more as a question, but we would speak about what the Beit Shlishi is about, what we're trying to do to get there, and what it's supposed to be about. The Beit Shlishi is the third Beit Mikdash. You could read a lot of material about the first two. When we sit on the Chorm Beit Mikdash and Tisha B'Av, we speak about the first two Beit Mikdash. We have a lot of literature on them. Beit Shlishi is a little bit limited. So I just wanted to speak out a certain understanding about what goes behind the third Beit Mikdash and what we can take from this idea, especially what I personally will take. First of all, we have many psukim that discuss, and I shouldn't say many, we have sporadic psukim which discuss the third Beit Mikdash. Chazak Baruch. Pasuk in Yeshai says, "Vaya be'achrita amim," in the end of days, "Nachani Beit Hashem berosh ha'arim." The house of Hashem will be on the top of the mountains. V'nasamik ba'od v'alchu amim rabim v'amru lechu v'na'alel Hashem al Beit Elokei Yaakov v'yirodenu midrachav. Everyone will go and they'll say, "Let's go to the house of Beit Hashem, and we should go v'nelchu be'archotav ki mitzion teitzei Torah." That's the pasuk in Yeshaya. From Tzion will teitzei Torah, from the house. Tzion referring here to the Har Beit and the Beit Mikdash. That's where Torah will come from. Dvar Hashem miYerushalayim. We're very familiar. Baruch Hashem, Yeshaya knew the song also. We're not the only ones. He also learned it. Also, Ben Michan Perik Dalet also brings about the Beit Shlishi. V'yibi achrita yamim hayahar Beit Hashem. Nachon berosh harim v'nasahu b'mikbaot. It refers also on the head of the mountains. That's where the Beit Shlishi will be. And that's where we will be looking to. Of course, in the end of Yechezkel over there, it speaks tremendously about the details of how it's going to look like. But that is not for us to go into over details what it's going to look like. That's a little bit too nitpicky, and I don't think people are going to get enjoyment out of it. Anyways, we should know that the Beit Mikdash is going to be an incredible before place full of beauty and bounty. As the Rav Rambam ben Agro in his Sefer writes, there's a Sefer, he has a certain Sefer, he writes that it will have an idea of there will be not all, but much of the kesef izav, all the silver and the gold that comes, that is visible in the world, will all come towards the Beit Mikdash. It will have tremendous amount of trappings, and it will make every other building and edifice, especially in our days, which is very difficult to do, it'll make it look small compared to the beauty of what the Beit Mikdash will look like. He says even the Nevi'im and the Chachamim are not able to capture, understand the beauty and the osher and the ramifications of what this building will be like, that will be in the time of Yerushalayim. Okay, that is the beauty of this incredible edifice. And I want to speak about what this means. I want to try to understand what it means that we'll have this beautiful Beit Mikdash. It's going to be better than Buckingham Palace. What exactly is so fantastic about it? What makes it so much chen, charismatic? What makes it so pulling to the eye? What makes us have such a simcha that we're looking forward to it? How is it built better than anybody else? What exactly is what gets us so excited about this machine? Okay, so let's figure out how this thing is built. And again, I'm going straight to, there's many discussions you could discuss. You could speak about the architecture of the building. I'm not going into that because that's a little bit too much. I want to speak about an interesting machloket rishonim and midrashim, how this place will be built, this Beit Shlishi. And again, I'll try to take it to a musar that we can learn, and I want to even describe a little bit about what we're missing, what we're looking forward to. Okay, so let's take it from the top. First of all, there's the Gemara in Sukkah. The Gemara in Sukkah basically says over there that in the time of Sfirta Omer coming soon, we knew that back in the olden days, the only time we were able to eat from the first Omer, which is the day after the first day of Pesach, was only after they were makriv the Omer, after they went ahead and did the korban on the Omer. They cut the Omer and they brought it to the Beit Mikdash. That's when we were able to eat from it. Nowadays that we don't have it, it should be immediately when the day kicks in, meaning the day after Yom Tov, Mamish coming soon in a couple of weeks. The day after Yom Tov, it should be permitted immediately to eat the Omer, because we don't have Beit Mikdash, the Avonenu, unfortunately. But the Gemara says, no, we make a gzeira, because we're worried that when the Beit Mikdash will be built, the first year that the Beit Mikdash might be built, the Omer might be delayed and we might end up having to wait till the Omer comes, and it'll only be later in the second half of the day. So Gemara says, why? You always do the Omer as fast as possible. Gemara says, yeah, but on the first year, what if it's built last minute? What if it's built that night, the night before, by the night of Pesach, and immediately before it, and it's built, and they're not going to have enough time, and the Omer might end up getting delayed. That's what the Gemara says. And the Gemara says, how is that possible? It says, if it's going to be built on the night of Yom Tov, or on Yom Tov itself, so then it ends up being delayed. That's the Gemara. So both Rashi and Tosfos, both these Rishonim concur on the same question and same answer. They say, I understand, you're not allowed to build the Beit Mikdash on Yom Tov. It's not Doche Yom Tov. As great as the Beit Mikdash is and fantastic, you're not allowed to build the Beit Mikdash on Yom Tov. So what's the Havamina you would build it then? That's A. And B, the pasuk says, Ubei Yom Hakim. It has to be built during the day, not at nighttime. We don't build this edifice as great as it is at nighttime, only during the day. So how is it possible to be able to build the Beit Mikdash at nighttime? Says Rashi, an incredible answer. Not, if I could say, atypical of Rashi. Hani milia banui biyadei adam. That's only when it's being built by a person. When people are building it. Aval migdash ha'atid. But the Beit Mikdash in the future, sha'anu mitzapin banui u'meshuchlal, that we're waiting for it. And we're waiting for it to be built. Uyigala v'yavo. It's going to come and fall from the Shamayim. Mina Shamayim, he says. Shenemar migdash Hashem konenu yadecha. It's going to come and fall from the skies. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what's yadecha? Migdash Hashem konenu yadecha. The hands of Hashem is going to throw it down. Hashem is going to take it. Psh, watch out your head. I don't recommend a Beit Mikdash from the sky falling on top of you. That's a little bit dangerous. But if you're careful, you're going to be in good shape. It'll be perfect. The Arabs will be there. Psh, drop in on top of them, and the musk explodes. Fantastic. So it sounds like that's what's going to happen. And then
The UN is going to condemn this whole thing.
That's true. Right, I forgot about that. That's true. This is unethical. It's not fair. Right. Right. So that's Rashi. Now the Tosfot also, he brings the same question, same answer, which again is a little bit atypical. First of all, Tosfot doesn't talk like that. Second of all, Imamish repeats Rashi Kimat almost word for word. I just want to say this Rashi and Tosfot is found in the Gemara in Sukkah, which I just quoted to you from. It's also found in the Gemara in Shvuot and Daf Tez Vav Amud Beis, where it also discusses the idea of sometimes being built at night. It's also a Rashi in Rosh Hashanah on Daf Lamed, and it's also the Ritva over there in Sukkah. And it seems to be something very, very in stone, as they say, by these Rishonim. They're not messing around. And all these Gemaras, they explain the same exact idea. Tosfot over there in Shvuot also says it, etc. All of them seem to say the same idea. And the truth is, it's a Tana de Be'er Eliyahu. In the Midrash in Tana Be'er Eliyahu, it says, the Mishkan shel Moshe lo shalad bo sonim oivim. You know why? When Moshe Rabbeinu built the Mishkan, it stayed around and it wasn't overpowered by the enemies, and it had a kiyum, because Mishkan shel Shlomo ken shel tubo. Mashiach by the Mishkan shel Shlomo, of course the Beit Mikdash, the first Beit Mikdash, was overconquered by Nebuchadnezzar. What's the reason why? So it's already mitgaleh over there in the Tana Be'er Eliyahu, and you should know the Zohar also says the reason why is because Shlomo Melech built the Beit Mikdash with goyim, or it was built by a man. Well, that's what the Tana Be'er Eliyahu says. It was built man-made, as opposed to the Mishkan Shel Moshe was done in a very ephemeral way, in a way that it was done by Mina Shamayim Kebiyachal. It was built, and therefore it remained. And that's what the Tana Be'er Eliyahu says, Aval Migdash Achron, the third Beit Mikdash will never be destroyed. She'atid HaKadosh Baruch Hu livnoto, Mefurish, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself is going to be the one to build it. Lo yikreh v'lo yishlop osoni le'olam, no one's going to overconquer it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yadur bo le'olam. Shmak. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be there forever. He's going to be the one that will have it last forever. So incredible, we see this idea that A, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes a drop from the sky, and B, the fact that it will last forever for that reason, Gufa, because that's what's going to keep it lasting. Parenthetically, I want to quote a Ravan. The Ravan is also a Rishon, and he asked a question that I have to say, I have a Chiloni cousin that asked me the same question once. And the Ravan said, I understand Rashi's answer. He kind of proves from here. He asks with the answer, the same answer. He says, you're saying that we can't build it because it's Yom Tov. Instead, it's going to drop from the sky. What, Hashem doesn't keep mitzvot? Hashem doesn't keep things? I remember when I was younger, I was by my Chiloni cousin's house, who happens to be not alive anymore. And it was raining on Shabbat. He goes, why is it raining on Shabbat? Hashem he makes it rain on Shabbat. He doesn't keep Shabbat. He doesn't, these guys know what they're talking about. He doesn't know how to keep Shabbat. I had to tell you, I was dumbfounded a little bit. I didn't know what to answer. I was like, well, Hashem's not really mitzvah b'mitzvahs, I'm saying. He's not really to be able to do that. Anyways, so that's what the Ravan says. So it says, Mikan ro'im, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not mitzvah b'mitzvahs. We find that he wears tefillin. We know the Gemara Brachot, and we know other things. There was a Kesher Shel Tefillin we had in last week's parsha. Mitzvahs say maybe he does do, mitzvahs Leita say he doesn't do, but okay. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not, doesn't have those parameters. It brings tirat in the Ravan. Okay, just interesting, parenthetical. Anyways, we see this phenomenon that the Beit Mikdash falls from the sky, and I just want to bring 2 or 3 more Mekorot to this concept. First of all, we all say, unfortunately, Nachem on Tisha B'Av. In the middle of Tisha B'Av, as we all know, some in Mincha, some Sephardim Minhagim is even to say it in Shacharit. By Bonei Yerushalayim, we say Nachem. Familiar? Nachem that we say about Beit Mikdash, that we say the Beit Mikdash was destroyed. And over there it's mentioned this line, Ki ata Hashem be'esh itzata, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you destroyed the Beit Mikdash with the fire, u'be'esh ata atid livnoto. And with Esh, you're going to go ahead and rebuild it. Since you destroyed it with Esh, you're going to be the one that's going to be rebuilt it with Esh also. Again, we see a reference to the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Kebiyochel going to do tshuva, Kebiyochel b'mechaper, on the Beit Mikdash, and he's going to rebuild it. I gave a shir on the fires in California, and I quoted this line over here. Mentioned that the fire as the aspects of destruction and construction. Fire is an incredible phenomenon. It can destroy haphazardly anything that deserves to be destroyed. I come from California, maybe I'm allowed to say that. And it goes ahead and it constructs, because we cannot live without a sun. We cannot live without food, cannot be. We know that all plant life survives by the sun. We know that nothing would survive. Everything would freeze over if we didn't have a sun. Look at the other planets. So it has the power of destructing, being constructive and destructive. It's all a decision that the person himself has to make, how he's going to connect to that fire. Anyways, so we see over here from Nachem also that HaKadosh Baruch Hu rebuilds it. As we all know in Shemona Esrei, which hopefully we're saying 3 times a day, Uvnei Ota Binyan Olam, we refer to the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will build it. When we talk about Bnei Yerushalayim, we refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu reconstructing the Beit Mikdash. Coming soon to a Haggadah near you. We're going to go ahead very soon and read the Haggadah. And what do we say? This is the tune we say at my house. I know what to tell you. And the songs that we say at the end of the Haggadah. Kel b'nei beitcha beitcha rov. Familiar? Is that how you sing also? Kel b'nei. Well, did you ever pay attention to what you're reading? Kel b'nei, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you create it, you rebuild it. We're telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you build the Beit Mikdash. You should construct this Beit Mikdash. As we say in Musaf all the time. Huh? You're saying, you can't, I want to live in Bnei Beitcha, let me live in Bnei Beitcha. It's like the Beverly Hills of Ramat Beit Shemesh. Anyways, and that's what we say in Musaf. Yiratzah milfanecha Hashem Elokeinu Kevoteinu Melech Rachaman shetashu v'terachem aleinu ve'al mikdashcha b'rachamecha rabim v'tivneu meheira v'tagadel kevodoi. We refer to being Megadol Kvoid and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should build it. So we see a number of references to the fact of what Rashi said, Koinenu Yadecha, that Hashem, you are the one with your hands, are going to go ahead and rebuild it. As I mentioned, and the Zohar accompanies this Tana B'Eliyahu, that the Zohar writes in a number of places that the reason why the Beit HaMikdash will not be destroyed is because the other one was by Barnash, by people, as opposed to this was done and created by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, B'chvoidoi u'be'atmoi. You understand? That's the greatness of this idea. The Yalkut in Tehillim says, Hashem la'orei chamim. Hashem will last forever. Like Shlomo shenechrav, not like Shlomo, and not ke'Ezra shabayna v'nechrav. Shlomo and Ezra, they built it. And especially Shlomo Melech was done with Goyim. Aval atah la'orei chamim, that you will be forever and ever. Yours will last forever. Migdash Hashem, konenu yadecha. Again, another reference to this, the idea. The Tanchuma says before Hashem, Yud Aleph, and this is quoted by Tosfot. Tosfot quotes the Tanchuma, Ayin B'Tanchuma. It says the words Mefurash, Hu be'atzmoi boneata. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu is boneata. Like the Mechilta writes, it's Chaviv lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He loves the Beit HaMikdash so much, Keshevar Hashem et olamo, that he will build it with 2 hands. He loves it so much that he himself is going to build it with his own 2 hands. It says the world was built with 1 hand, but he's going to use all Kebiyochel, 10 fingers, 2 hands, to build the Beit HaMikdash. Okay. Have I convinced everyone? To me, it sounds like the Beit Mikdash is falling from a shamayim. Pretty convincing argument. It sounds like that's where we're going. It's time to go home. Close up shop. I don't see another argument. Comes along the Rambam, like he likes to do. He likes to, make problems. He likes to always show that there's another side to every coin. And he's not the only one, don't worry. But the Rambam seems to say almost beforish, not like that. In the Hagdama to Masechet Midot, in the beginning to Masechet Midot. Now that's the Masechta that discusses it's a Mishnah, don't worry, it's not a Gemara, you can relax. But it's a Masechta that discusses all the dimensions of the second Beit Mikdash. And the Rambam asks a very obvious question. Why? Why do I have to learn this? It doesn't exist anymore. It's not there anymore. First Beit Mikdash, it's not around anymore. Why do I have to learn this thing? It doesn't make sense. So says the Rambam, incredibly, he says, he says, because when we rebuild the third Beit Mikdash, we have to know the tzura, ve'oto hayachas, ki ito hayta me'et Hashem, to know the yachas, to know how to build the third Beit Mikdash. There's many similarities, it's not the same, but many similarities to the second Beit Mikdash. All the Meforshim say not exactly the same, and therefore we have to know how Maseches Midos works. Before, in the words of the Rambam, that we're the ones building it, we need the architecture in order to understand how to give it over. Okay? He brings from Sefer Yechezkel on this. But we see that you need to know this idea. That's what the Tosot Yom Tov over there in Masechet Midot brings from the Rambam. It says we see from the Rambam he holds that it's going to be built by man. And the truth is the Rambam in Hilchah Malachim, right at the end of Hilchah Malachim, Perek Yud Aleph says, HaMelech HaMashiach Atid La'amod U'La'achzir Malchut Beit David Le'Yoshna L'Memshala Rishona U'Boine HaMikdash. Mashiach is going to come. What's his job? You got to give him a job. It's not enough that he just walks in. He's also, we're talking about Mashiach ben Yosef getting rid of all the goyim. So Mashiach ben David, he's got to do something. You can tell me now, the Beit Mikdash falls from the Shemai. What's his job? It's like, artificial intelligence. Everything has nothing to do. He's bored. So he says, no, he's the one building the Mikdash. Im Yamon Melech Beit David, Areiz Bechesket Shu Mashiach, B'im Asav Etzliach, Ubana Mikdash B'mkoimo. He says a number of times that he will be the one to build the Beit Mikdash. Okay, so we see clearly, according to the Rambam, that the Beit Mikdash will be built by Mashiach himself. Great. 1 second. How does he answer all those Gemaras? All those Gemaras said it's built at nighttime, built in Yom Tov. You're not allowed to build the Beit Mikdash at nighttime. How are you allowed to do that? So Rashi and Tosfot said, no problem, it falls from the Shamayim, and Kodesh Baruch will take care of it for us. The Rambam says, no, we're building it. How are you allowed to build it on Yom Tov? So the Meir, almost very, very often goes with the sheet of the Rambam. He's a very big Rambam man. Says an incredible answer. He says, Mirov Chavivut, it's scary to say this answer, he says, because we love the Beit HaMikdash, the Beit Din might mess up. We might actually build it even on Yom Tov. The Mashiach comes, he shows up, we're like, wow, this is so exciting. We get the hammers out and we start building up the whole Beit HaMikdash, even though it's nighttime, even though it's Yom Tov, and it was faulty to do that, but Mirov Chavivut mitzvah, we're going to end up doing that. You hear that? Other answers are that maybe it'll be built by Goyim. The Tiferet Yisrael says this in Midot. Maybe some Goyim are going to go ahead and build it. Or another answer is that it's Al Pia Dibur. There'll be a special Gzeret HaKatuv that it's permitted. There are other answers given. The Orch Laner gives another answer that we'll build not the Beit HaMikdash, just the Mizbeach we'll build. And over there we're going to do the Ormer. Okay, it doesn't matter. I don't have to go through all the answers. It's just a sugya. I'm trying to show you there's a big sugya here. Not stam. But it seems to be that the Rambam holds clearly that it will be built by man-made. Now this Rambam is Lashitato. I have to explain. The Rambam is very strong of the opinion, like Shmuel. There is a disagreement with the Gemara. When Mashiach comes, what's it going to look like? Many people ask this question. I've gotten the question before also. What's it going to look like? So Shmuel says, Ein bein Yemot Olam u'Lemot Mashiach. There's no difference between now and Yemot Mashiach and Shibud Malchiot. Meaning things stay stagnant. Things stay standard. More or less, there's not going to be any great grace and miracles at the time, right in the beginning when Mashiach comes. You're not going to have all these fancy miracles happening from the sky. When Tchiyat Beitim happens, okay, over there's a different story. That's already the next step when the resurrection. But in the time of Mashiach, the difference is that Klal Yisrael is in charge of everything. That's already miraculous. The UN is going to kiss up to us, believe it or not. They'll be dead, but we'll be on charge. That's really the main existence that will be. That's what he says. And therefore, according to the Rambam, there are no miracles. Other Rishonim hold, no, there will be miraculous things. Like the Pasuk says, a lion will sit with a sheep and they will eat together and they'll graze together from the ground. The Ramban and others say that Shita. So the Rambam holds there is no fancy fireworks when Mashiach comes. Later by Tchet Meitim there is. So according to the Rambam, it makes sense what he says here. He doesn't want to make fancy buildings falling from the sky. To me that sounds like quite a miracle. No, that sounds like an impressive one. Right? Even we haven't been able to figure out how to do that one yet, right? We kind of do it over here with these trailers. You ever see like a helicopter come and pull in these trailers? It's like you feel like a building coming from the sky.
Can't
Right?
believe the
These
big
caravans.
It started as a caravan.
Right, I hope
That
not.
doesn't seem right.
They're huge drones driven by AI.
Right, that could happen, you're saying. Oh, carry all Beit Mikdash, huh? Anyways, so that makes sense that he doesn't want to make it fall from the skies, and therefore he says that we are the ones going to build it. So we're saying, okay, look, I just gave you a whole slew of Midrashim and the Rishonim. They all learn they came from the Shamayim, and you have one Rambam. Okay, so a Rambam says one Shita, and Kol Kavod, he can't go against everyone. Guess what, Chevra? The Rambam also has backing to what he said. The Midrash says in Vayikra Rabbah, Melech HaMashiach, Shenatun B'Tzafon, Melech HaMashiach is going to come from the north, from Chizbalah over there. V'yavot v'yivneh Beit Mikdash. He's going to come and build a Beit Mikdash. In Midrash Rabbah, in Yud Gimel Bet, the Shirim Rabbah, in Dalet Hazayin, Melamed sheyavo Melech HaMashiach, v'yikanes gluyateim shel Yisrael, Yerushalayim, u'banu Yerushalayim. Melech HaMashiach is going to come and build up Yerushalayim. He's going to build the Beit Mikdash. The Yerushalmi says in Megillah, in Masechus Megillah, v'yavo v'yivneh Beit Mikdash. Yerushalmi is a Gemara already. He's going to come and say, the Targum in a number of places, in Yishai and Zechariah, and other places, basically says that Mashiach is going to come and build it. I'm not a baki in all these things. These are referenced by Sfarim in different places. Okay? You should just know that they all say this. And the Rabbeinu Bechaya also, lastly, I'll finish with this, brings the Rambam, and he says also, it's the reason why, we know famously that some people understand, Chazal say that the Chazir is called a Chazir, or Davar Acher, what we call it, which is referring to lard or pig, from Lashon Chazara, which people classically understand as, simply understood, as that it will be Chozer Liyoshna, will become mutter, that a Chazir will become permitted. And the Rebbeinu Bechai is not happy to say such a thing. He says what it's referred to as that is in order to say that the first Beit Mikdashim were built by Bnei Yisrael, by us. But the third Bayit, Atida Uma Zuli Vnota, V'zel lahachzir atorah liyoshna. You hear that? Chazir, the expression that's Sfarim say always. It's in order to be machzir atorah liyoshna, shehem echrivu lechem yivnuta. It's from Lashon to bring back the old crown that we had, that we were on top of the world, that we were, everybody looked up to us, everyone understood Hashem echad u'shmo echad. And that is what it has to do. And therefore he says clearly that Mashiach will be the one to come and build it, and everyone will realize who we are. Okay, Rabotai, I just told you a tremendous amount of, if I could say, machloket, contradiction. Figure it out. On one instance, in this corner, we have the Beit Mikdash falling from the sky. In this corner, we have that we're building it with our own hands, our own hammers and nails. Make up your mind. Which one is it? Stop confusing me, Rabbi. This is what I came to share for. For you to tell me 15,000 opinions, what does that do for me? So here we have a reference to the answer. I'll tell you what. The Orach Laner, the Maoral Diskin says the Goyim. And after they'll just say a straight answer, we'll try to explain it, how it relates to us, and we'll call it a day. Okay, in the Siddur Agra, the Maral Diskin, the Divrei Yol is the Satmarav, and the Orach Laner is over there in Sukkah. They say, each one in their own nusach, this type of idea. Basically, as we know, we are made up of a physical body, we have a neshama. As we all know, we're here put as a goof in this world, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu throws down a neshama and makes us animate. With our soul, within our body, contained within our body, we become animate, we become active. That's what we're able to do. He says a similar idea to the Beit Mikdash, that we will build it, we'll start the building, we'll do what we can do, but the soul of the Beit Mikdash will be thrown mina shamayim. In other words, you can have a lot of buildings, you can have fantastic, like we said, edifices in this world. We have tremendous structures that exist. But even so, it doesn't have any lifeline to it without the spirit that comes within it. That spirit will be given by sorry, I shouldn't say that, by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It will be given by HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvoidu ba'atzmai, that will go ahead and give us the ruchnius that goes into the structure. Now, how do we understand this? Let's just explain this concept, what this means, and how we can relate to this idea Instead of saying some esoteric idea, we have to relate to it, and this explains what our job is in reference to Mashiach. When the menorah needed to be built, when the Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted Moshe Rabbeinu to create the menorah, it says in the pasuk Tes and Taseu, which sounds like he should do it, but it also says it should be done. Sounds like a contradiction. It should be done, or you should do it. So Rashi says a famous Chazal, which says that Kadosh Baruch Hu told him make the menorah. Moshe Rabbeinu tried. It didn't work. Hashem said, "Okay, I'll show you what it looks like." He showed him what it looks like. He still tried, and he got stuck. Until eventually, Kadosh Baruch Hu did it himself. Kadosh Baruch Hu did himself. So the Sfat Emet and others, or Gedaliyahu and others ask, so why start the whole Ta'alich in the first place? Okay, you're going to do it anyways, Kadosh Baruch Hu. So if you're going to do it Hashem anyways, or why put him through all the Agmat Nefesh? Why put him through all the anguish? Why do you have to start and try, make him feel like a failure? What is this? Why do you have to make him feel like he doesn't know what he's doing? Make him feel like that. So it says the Sfat Emet, and if I could say this classic Chassidish Yesodot here, a little bit today, if I could say, because you're going to see a lot of overlap in that. And I'm starting with Sfat Emet. This concept is a very strong Chassidish plot line, if I could say. And that is, what does the Kadosh Baruch Hu want from you? Your ratzon, your tshuka, your tikvah, your hope, your interest. He wants you to be mashkia, invest as much as you yourself. He wants the ta'aseh, and then afterwards, don't worry, I'll take care of it afterwards. I'll take care of it afterwards in order to take care of what I can do. And therefore, he was very interested in Moshe doing the beginning in order that afterwards, I'll make the rest of the plot line happen afterwards. To make a menorah is too much. It's too much for a person to do. First of all, you realize it's not easy. It wasn't just like, you had to take a kikar of zav and you had to kind of plant it. Maybe a Michelangelo, I don't know, you never know. Could plant it out and figure out exactly how to do it in perfection with the kaftorim without wasting any gold. It has to be very impressive how it was done. But it was done, it had to be with a tremendous amount of craftsmanship. But besides that, obviously there was a lot more to it. To make the menorah its spiritual entity, that was too much. It was too much for Moshe Rabbeinu. He didn't know how to do it. And therefore, he had to try his best. And Kadosh Baruch Hu says, you do your best and I'll do the rest. That's the Yisod. I think we're all familiar with the Mishpat that the Gemara says in Megillah, Yagati v'matzati. I apologize for my coffee. I'm not feeling so well. But as they say, the show must go on. So that's why I decided to come. Yagati is the idea of, I tried. And if you pay attention, what does it say Yagati u'matzati? Yagati and it worked out? No, it doesn't say it worked out. Yagati u'matzati means that I found it. Finding it happens without Yagia also. I could find something when I'm walking down the street, and all of a sudden I find something. I walk down the street and I see something. So what does it mean Yagati? I worked hard and I found it. Because really, really in life, that's always how it is. Hashem wants us to do our Yagia, our tries. We're all familiar with the idea of Ishtadlut. But in the end of the day, as Masil Sharm writes, Ishtadlut is a mas, it's a tax. Does anyone want to pay taxes? I cut my corners as much as possible. Try to, especially in this country, what people try to do, right? Everyone tries to avoid tax as much as possible. Never pay a shekel more, usually a shekel less. Ishtadlut should be seen like that. I only do the minimum that I'm required. If not, if I do less, even better. I do what I can, because in the end of the day, I know in the end it's going to be matzati. The second part is just going to be matzati. Anyways, it's from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, what happens, the outcome is going to be that way. Ein lecha davar shamed lifnei ratzon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's interest is our ratzon. The ratzon of a person is his zich, is I, is me. What am I? What leads me to go somewhere? What makes me me? Is my ratzon. It's really my decisions. One person decides to kill people, in Oz over there, and another person decides to help people. Another person to be a Baal Chesed. Another person decides to whatever. Everyone decides what job they want to go into, if they want to go into learning or to work or to. Everyone, your ratzon is who the intrinsic person that you are is. That was right. If you are who you are, right? That's who you really are. Rashi writes over. He says it so many times in Chumash. It's almost like funny. Every time when a pasuk says you should take someone, it says vayikach that person. It says vayikach Yeshua, take Yeshua. Every time you take a person, take Yeshua, take us. Rashi says the same thing all the time. And the Maharal writes this a few times in Goria. He always says, convince him and tell him it's fantastic to be that way. When Yaakov is to go ahead and take another wife, so he says vayikach. Convince her that it's kedai to be nizdabik to a guf shel Yaakov Avinu, to be connected to Yaakov Avinu, something like that. Like I said, by Yeshua, and all the time this happens by Aaron and Kohen to become Kohen Gadol. Convince him how fantastic it is to be that. Vayikach is to take someone. I take you. Just come with me. The answer is, if I pull you somewhere, I didn't take you anywhere. What Hamas did to all those hostages, they didn't take hostages. They didn't take them because their ratzon is not there. They don't want to be there. They never want to be there at all. There's no kicha that's going on over there. To take someone, you have to take their ratzon. You have to take the person for who they are. We learn kicha when you marry a woman. If you just, in the old caveman style, hit her over the head and pull her by the hair and pull her into the house, it doesn't work because I love it. I'm sorry to say, it's there. You can't get married that way. You need her ratzon in order to do that. To take someone, you need the interest of the person also. The ratzon is the zich of the person. All Hashem wants from you is your ratzon. He's asking for, the expression goes to try, but your interest is. There'll be hindrances in the way, there'll be surprises, there'll be obstacles, no problem. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, like we said by the menorah over there, all he wants is for you to do that struggle, to get there, to try to get to where you can, and hopefully you'll be able to get there. That's really the top of the line, that's really what we're interested in, that's what we are always looking for. Like I said, this is a little bit Chassidish Torah, which I'm talking over here. It should be Litvish Torah also, I'm not saying against, but it's an important idea to know how much interest, that we are believers of, why did I say Litvish, by the way? Litvish are much more into action, doing this. But we're big believers of Ratzon, equipping the actions. But you'll see in Chassidish Sfarim, many often they speak about the Ratzon and the Chukah and the Leiv. They're much more focused on the Leiv. Litvishes are much more focused on the Seichel. And the answer is there's no contradiction, right? It's a little bit who's the Iker, who's the Tafel, if I could say. Where do you put more of the focus? That's a little bit the difference between Chassidish and Litvish things, but of course they're both important. And Chas V'Shalom, one should not contradict the next. So we have two stories with the Baal Shem Tov which overlap. I'll just mention both of them to bring out the idea. There was a Baal Tokea, that he was the Baal Tokea of the Shtat. And he prepared all his kavanot. The Mishabur says you're supposed to have kavanot also during the time of the Tkiyot. And he prepared all the kavanot and the things, and he had them all ready. And he went on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, and he blew the Tkiyot. Why? As a Tkiyot, the unbelievable Tkiyot perfection, with all the kavanot, and he, before each one he stopped and he read the kavanot and he had them all perfect in perfection, and he was just incredible in ecstasy. He felt so good, it was fantastic. Second day, when he was ready to go out and blow the tkiyot, he was looking left, right, up, down, and center. He could not find the paper with the tkiyot. He couldn't find it anywhere. He was looking all over. He got lost, trying here, trying there. Someone ripped off the kavanot. They disappeared, and he didn't know what to do. But the Baal Shem, who was the Makri, said, "It's time to start tkiyah." He said, He blew the tkiyah, but it was with such dire straits. It was with such a broken heart. He was so disappointed. It was such a mughzav, as they say, very, very upsetting situation for him. And he blew the tkiyah, and he blew the trua, and he did what he had to do because he had to do it. He had no choice. So frustrating because he didn't remember all the very difficult the kavanot. He didn't know them all ball pen. It was very hard for him. It's fine. After the Chag was over, he went to the Baal Shem and he apologized. He told him, Rabbi, I really apologize. I didn't have the kavanot on the second day. I did it without kavanot. I did it. He said, you should know in Shamayim, I know that in Shamayim, your second day tkiyot were much better than your first day tkiyot. How could it be? It doesn't make sense. I didn't do the kavanot. He said, because that was done with a broken heart, with the leiv nishbar. That's his lashon. It was done with a krechts. It was done with a heart. It was done with all the hearts. You really wanted it to be good. It was from the das. It was from within you. It was from a place deep within you that you wish you could be doing much better, much better. I want to get there. As opposed to the other one was a little bit of euphoria. It was a little bit of, I don't know if the word is showing off, but it was a little bit, look at my fancy schmancy tkiyot with my perfection, how I'm doing it. It came from an external place. Over here it came from inside out. And he said in Shamayim, those tkiyot were much better the second days. Much better than the first. On a similar note, coming soon, there was a couple, it was just a couple with no children, and they prepared the whole day for Pesach, cleaning up for Chametz and this, preparing for the Seder, everything. And they were wiped out. So they went to sleep after they finished cleaning, preparing the thing. They prepared all the Seder night, they prepared the matzot, everything. And they went to sleep. And guess what happened? Surprise, surprise. They schluffed away and they missed the Seder. They woke up 20 minutes before Chatzot. He looked at watch, they were dumbified, they couldn't believe it. They got up, they quickly washed, they did this, they ran through the Haggadah in tears, mamish and bechi, crying, doing the Haggadah as fast as possible, doing what they had to do. They were so upset about it. A wolf down the matzahs, like you're supposed to do anyway. They would get everything down as fast as possible. And is a kapara. So the next day they made sure to be ready, and the second night, and they prepared, and they did the whole seder perfect. They went to the Baal Shem to ask him what we should do about tshuva, and guess what? The Baal Shem said the same answer. It's two different stories in two different places, just putting the two stories together. The Baal Shem said the same thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loved your first one, loved Dafka your second one. The first one came from real desire. It came from a true desire. It came from an inner self. It came from a place of, I wish, a tikva. And that's really, like I said, there's a certain yesod behind that. Sometimes when we do it from really within, because I have a chukka, I really want to get there. That's where we want to get to. So then, that's how it will be built. And that's how everything is built. And from here we get to the second Beit Mikdash, the same idea. Because the end of the Midrash says in Parshas Pekudei, our Parsha, this week is Parshas Pekudei, the Midrash says, "Umiyad sharta lav Moshe ruach hakodesh ve'kimoy." How was Moshe Rabbeinu able to put up the Beit Mikdash or the Mishkan? Only because he had a special ruach kodesh. Don't say that Moshe Rabbeinu did it. Ela Moshe nesa bo nisim ve'aman me'atzboi. He ki'ilu pretended he was doing it, but it was just done by itself. It happened by itself. It's too heavy for one man to carry. Even Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's what it says, Hukam HaMishna. I mean, the Mishkan stood up on its own. And the Midrash goes on, and if you're surprised, and he says how's it going to happen. So he says, don't worry, La'asid Lavoy, it's also going to happen. La'asid Lavoy, the third base of Mikdash, is going to happen the same exact thing. In other words, we're going to try, our chukka's there, Mashiach is going to come, and we're going to be so excited. We're going to have such a ratzon to rebuild that base of Mikdash, and we're going to start. It's going to be complicated. We're not going to share how to do it. It's very confusing. There's a lot of details. Don't forget, you can't just plan a building and make, a nice apartment building. There's a lot of details where each chamber has to be, and everything has to be planned in perfection. You can't be off by a centimeter. It has to be done exactly the way it's supposed to be. We'll do it as best as we can. And after we do it as best as we can, Yered Mina Shamayim. The rest is going to be done by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because that's the yesod of everything, that it comes from the lev, it comes from the chukka, it comes from our ratzon, that we're trying to get there, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be able to take care of it for us, and only by that we'll be able to eventually get the Beit Mikdash. It says, I'm coming close to a close, I just want to mention a couple things. In the Parsha Ba'alotcha, the question is asked that over there brings the menorah. And Chazal ask why. Why do you bring the menorah over here? It should be in our parsha. Why isn't Parsha Ba'alotcha? So Rashi says, because Aaron, again I'm saying another Chassidish Shavar, today's Chassidish day. Aaron Cohen said he saw the Nesim, he saw that the Nesim brought all those korbanot in Parshas Nasoi, all the 12 korbanot that he brought in. It was Chalash Liba, he felt so bad. Look at these beautiful korbanot, and he was feel bad. And over there the Midrash says, don't worry, it was Nechlash Daitei, Kishara Nasim Anidi. V'atem and Kosh Baruch Hu says, Chayecha Shalcha G'doyla Mishalem. Don't worry, Chayecha with your life, you're better than them because you're going to have the menorah. That's why Ba'alotcha follows Parshas Nasoi. Nasoi had the Nasim. Aaron felt bad, and after that Hashem says, don't worry, you're going to get to do the menorah. So the Rambam over there asks, why is that a solution? I'd rather be doing korbanot. They brought all these fancy korbanot, and all that. So you light the menorah. Why is that an appeasement for him? So listen to a tshuva from Rabbi Yitzchak Vereka, from one of the Gedolei Chassidim. It says this incredible answer. You know what he says? You read the pasuk like this. This is, like I said, classic Chassidish Torah. They break a pasuk in a different way. It says, Chayecha, I see your whole life is here. I see that your real ruts and your chukka is there. I see your whole life is holding on the line because you wish you could be doing korbanos like the Nasim. Chayecha, everything's there. Shalcha G'doyla Mishalem, and therefore you're bigger than them. You should know, you came from much, but don't forget, the Nasim also had a little bit of a problem. They lost a Yud in their name because they came last when they gave the Avnei Shalom. They weren't the first ones to pop up. But he's saying, in Kol Kavod, I understand the trappings of the Nasim look much fancier, it looks much better, but Chayecha is much better. But what you do, because you yearned it, you had a chukka for it, you really wanted it, your ratzon was there, Shalcha G'doyla Mishalem. What you're going to get is much better than theirs. And that's really what HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks from us. And I'm telling you the truth, I understand. Let me read one more midrash. The midrash also brings from Rechini ben Dosa that he was extremely poor. It was a Baal Moifet, but it was extremely poor. And he really wanted to bring a korban to the Beit Mikdash. So the midrash says, you know what he did? He took a rock. Try this one on for size. And he started schlepping it to the Beit Mikdash because he wanted to bring it as a korban. I don't know what he was thinking. Don't ask me. You don't ask questions of Rechini ben Dosa. He did a lot of miracles. But he started bringing a rock to Beit Mikdash, and he realized it was very heavy to carry. He wanted to bring a nice rock. He brought a good rock. He didn't bring a stam rock. And it says over there, someone passed by and said, can you help me with my horses? And in honor of that, I'm going the same direction as you anyways. And he helped him carry the rock. Many of us carry rocks. Many of us carry ritzonot, and it's heavy, and we don't think we can do it. But if you put your lave there, if you put your chukah there, you don't realize that you'll end up getting it in the end. In the end of the day, it will be there, because the real answer to getting Mashiach, or to bring him there, is the real chukah. The fact that he sees that he wants you to be there, that he sees that there's a certain ratzon and interest to be there, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu focuses on the ratzon, on the lave, on the interest. There's a story also of Victor Miller, that there's a certain person that used to come to a shiurim very often and fall asleep. He used to fall asleep almost always. He used to fall asleep. Can I say I can relate? Anyways, he used to fall asleep. So one time he came into the Rav and he told him, Rav, should I stop coming to your shiur? Maybe I should stop coming to your shiur. I mean, I feel like I fall asleep. And he says, no, you keep coming. Because the fact that you want to come, there's the idea of schar psiyot also. When you come, just for the coming is also good. But he says, just the fact that you want to come, that you have a chukah to come, that your interest, that's what's going to build you. Lamaisa, he kept coming. He retired at the age of 60 years old. He moved to Eretz Yisrael, and he learns 3 Siddharim and Koilo, this guy. If he's still alive, I can't tell you. If it was back in Victor Miller, he's probably, I don't know if he's still around. But afterwards, he kept learning 3 Siddharim afterwards. Why? Because he never gave up. He kept sticking to his guns. He didn't go ahead and retire and finish, and it was too hard for me, and it's enough, I'm not keeping to it. A person tries. Even if he doesn't make it all the time, the etzem chukah, the ratzon, the interest, the focus, that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is begging for us. He wants us to get there because that's the only way that it's going to succeed. And that's really what the Brisker Rav means when he said, the only one of the ani mamins that says, Ve'afal pi sheyisma mea im kol ze achak elo, we have 13 ani mamins, and it could have said, afal pi. It says Hashem is not corporal. He doesn't have any physical things. It could have said ve'afal pi, and even though in the psukim it talks in reference to Hashem's face and charon af, and it talks about different measures. Afal pi, that in the psukim it talks about Hashem being corporal. Im kol zeh, I know that it's not true. Right? You could have said that. Every ani mamin, you could have said that. Ve'afal pi, that it seems not like that, it's like that. Only here it says afal pi sheyitma mea im kol zeh achak elo. Why only over here? So the answer is the same thing, because the yesod of the idea of Mashiach is the chukah, it's the ratzon, it's the bakasha, it's the fact that we want to, it's the afal pi sheyitma mea im kol zeh achak elo. That's the yesod of the ani mamin. It's not cognitive, it's lave. If any of the other ani mamins could be cognitive, they're sichli, they're understood by your mind. I understand that Hashem's not physical, I understand there's only one, I understand he has no beginning and no end. They're all facts. But this one is much more than a fact. It's not just, I know there's a Mashiach. No, it has to be something in your da'at, in your feeling. You have to feel it. You have to connect to it. And the more you mitchashek for it, so then you know it's going to come. You know it's going to happen. I mentioned the story of the Beit Levi, I can't remember, in the Mashiach Shir. Did I mention it? Do you remember or not? With the fact that the Beit Levi was appointed to Slutsk. What? I didn't mention it, right? So anyways, it's a famous story a little bit. The Beit Levi, they asked him to move. He retired as a rabbi. He wanted to learn to the rest of his life. He wanted to prepare for Olam Haba. And Brisk, in his later part of his life, they asked him, can you please move and come and become the Rav of Brisk? He said, no way, I want to learn this and that. They sent another Mishloach, a second. The third Mishloach came and they said, look, there are 30,000 people waiting for you. And they're just waiting for you and you have to do it. So he went to the Rebbetzin and he said, told his Rebbetzin, get my Bekesha, it's time to go. We have to go. If 30,000 people are waiting, I'm not allowed to say no. I can't say no. So he went and he became the Rav of, and that's why he became the Rav of Brisk, by the way. He's the father of Rav Chaim and eventually Brisk Rav. Anyway, so that's a famous story of the Beit Levi. And what happened? The Chofetz Chaim said from here, he used to groan and yearn, he was so upset about it. And he used to say, if the Beit Levi went for 30,000 people and he was willing to go, just think when Mashiach would come. If just a few of us were waiting for him, 30,000 of us were waiting for him, he would be here already. He wouldn't have such a delay. Comes from the lack of understanding of what we're missing, of where we're coming from, what I spoke about in the first year. And that's why it's there. So this is the yisod of the Beit Shlishi, to be able to feel what we're lacking, to feel what we're missing, to relate to it, to connect. And the more you yearn and have a chukah for it, you'll have an appreciation of what is really not there. I'm going to finish by I'm going to read you something over here, and this is the end. A letter from a Roman citizen, a true eyewitness to what it looked like during the time of the second Beit Mikdash. Now you're wondering where this is printed? By Rav Yaakov Emden in a Siddur. In the Yavitz, he got a letter like this. It's written after the Tashlich prayer. It's written in Hebrew. I have an English translation here, which I made a Xerox of. If you want to see it, you can see it. Of a Roman citizen that saw the Yom Kippur service. It's a long piece, and we don't have time for me to read it. I'm just going to tell you the Rosh HaPrakim over here. He basically says, I saw the Kohen Gadol 7 days before, and that when they spoke to him on that special day before Yom Kippur, and the old sages of the Kohanim, that they would stand next to him, etc., etc., and he would answer and say that he's ready and prepared, and with the brothers. He goes to the whole beginning, what happened. I want to go in the second part. And he said, what's the entourage when he went into the Beit Mikdash? This is before Yom Kippur. First went the descendants of the kings of Israel, because those were closer to the Kohanim. All the Malachim from Beis David. After them, he said, the royal family of David HaMelech in all proper order, one after the other. And then there was someone proclaiming, screaming out, give honor to the royalty of 10 kavod the malchut of Beit David, 10 malchut the David. This is what's going on when they're entering into the Beit Mikdash. After them, you have the house of Levi. This is by an eyewitness who saw this, and a goy, a Roman citizen, who's telling us what happened over here. After that came a house of Levi. Give honor to the house of Levi, and there were 36,000 of them. Then there were people that were wearing silk clothing. The Kohanim wore silk clothing. And number 24,000 Kohanim that went after this. This is a massive entourage of beauty of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Malachim, the Levim, the Kohanim. I'm going to contrast this with something which is unusual, but I'm still going to do it because I feel I have to. Then came the Levim who would start singing with their musicians, the trumpet blowers, the kingers of the gates, and it was so beautiful. The perfumes of the incense. There's a goy again speaking. He said, the makers of the parochet, these are the makers. And a group called Kratafilos that came in, then were followed by anyone who worked in the Beit Mikdash. All the people that were Oved in the Beit Mikdash followed through. And of course the Sanhedrin of 70 followed, and he brings 100 other police that followed after that. Anyways, that's what happened. And then eventually, after this whole ganze entourage, 24,000, 36,000, etc., came the Kohen Gadol in the back. The anchor, the caboose in the back, was the Kohen Gadol walked in. And everybody was cheering him on. It was unbelievable just to think of that. At the entrance of each street. So they would say, Ishi Kohen Gadol, you should have shalom, you should have peace, pray for us, you should pray to Kadosh Baruch Hu that he should stay in us this year. We're all depending on you. You should be able to learn Torah. It's unbelievable. I read this, it's incredible. And then he said the procession continued until it reached the Shar of Har HaBayis. And then they prayed that the king of David HaMelech should also live long and prosper, as you say, right? He should continue forever. And then for the Beit Mikdash, he says you could hear the sound of the multitudes that were so powerful after the bracha that they gave to the king, and everybody answered Amen. It was so powerful. Again, as a goy talking, flying birds fell to the ground. That's how powerful the Amen was from the people that said Amen. Sounds like bigger than Madison Square Garden, no? It sounds like even more powerful than that. The Kohen Gadol bowed towards the people and turned away in tears and awe. And then it says 2 people of the Kohanim walked with him to the room, and he was separated from all the other Kohanim. He says, this is what took place when he entered. He said, I don't know what happened inside, obviously. But he said, but I remember seeing him when he left. Afterwards, after Yom Kippur was over, all the people of Yerushalayim passed before him. Most of them had torches of flaming white wax. All of them wore white clothes. All the windows were decorated with embroidery and full of light. The Kohanim told me that many years, he says the Kohen Gadol couldn't reach his house. He says many years, the Kohen Gadol wasn't able to reach his house. Again, he left before Yom Kippur was over until midnight, until Emtza Alayla. And he says because of the number of people that were giving conversation, it was so cramped, and everybody wanted to see the Kohen Gadol, wanted to give a bracha to the Kohen, wanted to say hello to the Kohen, wanted to get a bracha, even though the people were all fasting. It was Motzei Yom Kippur, and they would not go to their houses till they tried to reach and kiss the hand of the Kohen Gadol. And of course, afterwards, he speaks about the great feast. An incredible sight to see. Now, I'll tell you why I get a little antsy. Now, this is illegal what I'm doing here. Maybe I'll do it for people who's there. I don't even mean to make Avdallah, but I only feel that I get a more of an appreciation for this by saying something completely off the books here, which I shouldn't say. When there's no lahavdil, a quadrillion mishmillion Avdallahs, but I still want to say it because when I hear this, As most of you know, I grew up I'm modern Orthodox, more modern than Orthodox, right? That's how I grew up. So I remember as a young teenager seeing a sight on a television set. It was even before the days of a thing, where you saw a crazy amount of officers and soldiers all walking in a certain file and this, and everybody, you see fans screaming and crying and going crazy on the side and going, and like screaming this, all on the side, like thousands of fans and this, and you see like this whole entourage of probably thousands of soldiers and this and that, and you see this one little image in the middle of this thing wearing red and sunglasses. You know what I'm talking about. Should I tell you what I'm talking about? A guy by the name of Michael Jackson. Can I say, I don't know what to say, but I won't say anything. Said he's dead now. That's all I'll say. I have more things to say, but I'm not going to go further than that. Anyway, he's dead now. And he's walking there with such a stiff back and doing this, and you just see people on the side screaming and crying. And even in those days, like I said, I was more modern Orthodox, I thought it was so pitiful. It was so ridiculous to see what these people are idolizing. I'm not going to go into the person. It's not even worth talking about. Seder is so low life. But to go ahead and give such credence, such covet to someone who is absolutely meaningless and has no talent other than the talent of what we know what his talent is. That one talent, besides that, to do that. So I have to say, the first time I read this letter, I was like, chas v'shalom to make contrast, but like, this is what we're begging for with Mashiach. Like, it's hard for us to say, what are you looking for when Mashiach comes? This is it, right? When you see what the world is giving honor to, when you see the world giving covet to such shtusim v'avolim, and to the crazy honor that they give to such things, and it's not the exact, but there's incredible entourage. That's the meaning of Mashiach. All that honor, all that respect, all that covet, all that crying, all those tears will go delivered to the right place. It will come to the Kohen Gadol b'zman that he goes in on Yom Kippur. It will come to the king, to the Sanhedrin. We'll give respect. We won't have all these leftists with all their crazy ideas and stuff like that. It should disturb us. It should come from a place. I told you it's not. I'm only bringing that story out just to show you we're maimed. We're in problems right now. There's a problem in the situation that we're in. It should make us just realize how handicapped you are. And when you realize how handicapped you are, you realize and appreciate this letter for what it is. Just to go ahead and see the incredible entourage and covet. It would stay till 12 o'clock at night just to touch him, just to get a bracha from the Kohen Gadol. Like it's such an incredible type of, to reach and kiss the hand of the Kohen Gadol. Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? Isn't that what we're missing? Isn't that when we have that shuk, when we have that yearning, when we want there? So taminli, the Beit Mikdash will fall, min hashamayim, and then we'll have exactly what we're looking for.